we think about our past, a lot of the important days of our lives that we like to remember or we do remember probably took place in a church. And this is true for a lot of history in Otter Tail County. We can relate that back to church days as well. For example, two of the very first groups that ever moved to Otter Tail County came here for faith reasons. And if we go even farther back than that, we can find Indian burial mounds, the burial mounds of prehistoric people all over Otter Tail County. They also came here for religious reasons, right? Because the earth, this beautiful land that we live on, is a relative for a lot of our Native American ancestors and for our people living today. But in Otter Tail County history that's been written down, much of it has to do with churches. And so we're standing inside the church exhibit now that's at the Historical Society Museum. And the first two churches built in Otter Tail County have a very interesting history and very unique, I should say. First, we've talked a little bit before about the Cutlerites, and this is a branch of the Latter-day Saints Church. And the Cutlerites had broken away from the church of Brigham Young, and Brigham Young and his followers moved out to Utah. And the Cutlerites, their follower was Alpheus Cutler, and he brought his people to Minnesota. He had a vision. He said God had spoken to him and that there was a place between two lakes where they could preach and set up their church. And so they settled on Clitheroe Lake and built up the first log cabin church in Otter Tail County. The second interesting group of people that also came here for faith reasons were some German Catholics. And they were immigrants who'd come from Germany. They had settled in Ohio. They had a very interesting priest, Father Joseph Albrecht. And Father Joseph was quite strict in the old way, and he also didn't like to have anyone disagree with him, let's say. And there's a great story about he had very specific ideas about what women should wear to church, that they should dress all in black and wear black bonnets, black apron, black skirt. And this is about 1865 when the fashion was those big hoop skirts. If you've ever seen a picture of Mrs. Lincoln, in Abraham Lincoln's wife, in those big skirts. And so Father Joseph said nobody was to wear that to church. And when some teenage girls came to mass with these big hoop skirts on, he chased them out of church and he hit them with a hickory stick. And that got into a big turmoil with the bishop and the parents. And so he ended up bringing his followers to Rush Lake in Otter Tail County. And one of probably I think it's a very important artifact that we have here at the Historical Society is Father Joseph's prayer bench. And really, if we're thinking about some of the important artifacts in Otter Tail County, you can look at the faith of our fathers and mothers, our grandmothers, all over Otter Tail County. We have some gorgeous churches that were constructed not just by Catholics, not just by Latter-day Saints or Mormons, but Lutheran churches and Methodist churches, Presbyterian churches, Baptist churches, and even some churches that have great history. And people put a lot of loving care into raising the money to build these churches and to furnish them. Most of the furnishings in this room that we're looking at came from the Augustana Church, Lutheran Church here in Fergus Falls. And so the windows, the altarpiece, and maybe, I don't even know, I should look it up, maybe some of the other interesting items like the pump organ and may have come from another church. But we have a baptismal font. And just thinking about those important days, not just for our pioneers, but what are some important days in your life? Is it the day that you were confirmed? Is it the day that you got married? Is it the baptism of a child or a grandchild? And is it a funeral? Think about those important rituals that we put into our churches. And not just those special, specific sacraments too, but also the friendship and the gatherings that we've been to. Does your church have a church festival? When is that? Does your church have a men's group or a women's group? A group that supports missions work? Think about all of those different aspects of church, of community life, really. The first churches in Ottertail County were often had a dual purpose until more people moved in and people had more time and more wealth. They might use a church and as a school, and vice versa. It was definitely a community meeting place as well until people met in homes until they could build township halls. People had school and church in the same buildings too. One of the important aspects of the church life, church days here in Ottertail County, is that people found a community, often at their church, of people who spoke the same language. And this is one reason why people often that come to Ottertail County will remark on the number of churches. And Fergus Falls, wow, there's so many churches. But the reason for that is people were looking for a church family that could speak their language. And so if you go up to the New York Mills area, you probably, you can see the Apostolic Lutheran Church there where services were held in Finnish way up. I mean, it was only recently that it became more difficult to find a pastor that spoke Finnish. We have churches that were, for example, here in Fergus Falls, First Lutheran Church, it was often called English Lutheran Church because services were in English. You have Swedish Lutheran churches, Norwegian, and I love that about the collection here at the Historical Society too, because we have numerous examples of Bibles and hymnals, prayer books. This is a psalm book that is in Swedish, and so just the Psalms. It says that this belonged to Eliza Anderson of Battle Lake, and it was given to her on August 19th, 1897. So just one of the many treasures that we have here, and also hymnals. I love those too. In addition to that, we have archival materials, again in another language, but in a paper form that somebody maybe would have even framed or kept in a Bible. And this is a, oh gosh, is it a wedding or is it no, I think this is a baptismal certificate, and it's in German too, because down here it says, Laffet die Kinderen zu mir kommen, so let the little children come unto me. And I love this because it's again from Erhard, Ottertail County, Minnesota, but in German, and so it says the name of the parents and of the little boy, and also the pastor that baptized this baby way back in 1894. And if you're talking about baptisms, then we have and maybe you have some in your family. Does your family have a special garment that babies wear when they're baptized? Like, look at this cute little, I mean, look at the handwork that went into there. This is probably handmade lace on the collar and the little sleeves. Oh my gosh, so adorable. Well, I don't have one out here. We could maybe find one, a confirmation dress, but think about too, what did you wear for confirmation? Did you get a suit? Did you have to wear a tie? We have a lot of confirmation photographs here of girls in a white dress, and as a parent I think, oh my gosh, how do you keep stuff like that clean? We also have garments like the special day of a wedding, And boy, have those changed over time. I mean, we have some from the 1860s, 70s, 80s that are in color. Like this is the wedding ensemble of Mrs. Selma Lundeen, who married Victor Lundeen. And this is a cute flapper outfit from the 1920s. Look at that cute pocket on the inside. But not at all what we would think of, right, as a wedding dress today. But this one is maybe more so. I guess the first bride that wore a white wedding dress was Queen Victoria. But this is a fantastic, can you imagine somebody small enough to wear this? This is a wedding dress that was made about 1936, and it is classic 1930s, right? So it's got that bias cut and the Juliet sleeve, the Peter Pan neck, and then look at collar, and look at the cute covered buttons. Oh my gosh, this is a beautiful satin gown for a wedding. And then this one is more closer to my time frame, I hate to admit, polyester, right? And this is a bridesmaid dress from the 1970s in all its polyester fantasticness. The empire waist and the ribbon, it's got a zipper, just classic. What did you wear at your wedding? What did you have your child wear for confirmation or for baptism? These are the kinds of memories that are fun to think about when we remember our days at church.